This is Boxing Tickets NI in association with SB Sports. It's a glorious Friday here in Belfast and we're outside the Devonish. Delighted to be joined once again with a hammer, Padraig McCrory. It's obviously just coming up 2 weeks now, obviously, since your last fight. Unfortunately, we couldn't get you afterwards. Everything was so late in the day, but I guess obviously, first and foremost, obviously your thoughts, and obviously you moved to 17-0 with a points win over Diego Ramirez.
Yeah, thoughts, obviously, like, it's another win. It's another like step in the right direction. But kind of like underwhelmed by the whole like fight and occasion. Obviously, the way things fell, I was like after the main event, which wasn't like perfect, but I got the win. I got 10 rounds, which is my first time doing 10 in 17 fights, which is, I suppose, strange, but yeah, I got the win.
I think obviously afterwards you were sort of critical, and I've sort of said to you since, I guess when you try to create perfection, sometimes obviously you want to be perfect. You're on BT, you were sort of after the main event. Obviously the main event didn't go the way everybody wanted to, and Mick losing. But I guess when you sort of weigh everything up, obviously, I think there was obviously a lot of where were you going to be fighting in the card sort of all week. Obviously after Mick getting beat, obviously Lamata obviously, and getting stretchered out of the ring to go to the hospital. I think when you sort of put all that together, you're doing your first 10 rounder, you can probably maybe now fight the adrenaline sort of come off from fight week, that you can sort of maybe relax and go, done 10 rounds the first time, I'm still unbeaten, and you're obviously still in line for a really big fight.
Yeah, I suppose like backstage, like we were hearing that there was a fighter like was really hurt and stuff, and like obviously me with 3 kids at home and stuff, like you kind of start like thinking, frig me, like what's going on, and like you get like these thoughts, why am I doing this? And then Mick getting beat, it was kind of like a bubble that burst, and then it was my turn to go out, and I was walking past like Mick's changing room and stuff, and you could just sense that the mood in the air would like kind of changed, but thankfully I got out, and there was a decent crowd that stayed behind and watched, and as I say, I think my fight like reflected sort of like the mood I was in. It was kind of like, let's just get it done, going through the motions, but like Ramirez, he was game, and he was cautious, and it kind of made for a 10 round sort of a bit of a bore fest.
It was sort of remarkable, sort of, I think I was sort of the first one that sort of alluded to the fact it was your first 10 rounder. It's crazy to think you obviously won the IBO belt and everything else last year, and I know you'd done 8 before, but obviously doing 10, I guess that when you sort of look at it, sometimes that can lead you in good stead for obviously big mega fights to sort of come. You've that sort of experience of going 10 rounds. They sort of be frustrated by a fighter that was very defensive. I guess he was probably in the mind frame as well of obviously what had happened earlier on the night, so he was obviously making sure he could go home safe and healthy to his family. So I think when you sort of weigh all that up, I think you were sort of a wee bit sort of too critical of yourself, but I say you're still unbeaten, 17-0. And actually it's 6 years ago today since you made your weigh-in for obviously your pro debut on Burnett Haskins. So when you think of obviously 6 years have sort of passed, and I guess you can probably see the maturity you've sort of gained within that period as well. Obviously 3 kids sort of since then as well. You sort of a real family man now, and boxing's probably give you a sort of new lease of life when sort of you came back there after sort of falling out of love with it as well.
Yeah, obviously 6 years. 6 years tomorrow since I made my debut, and things have went much better than I ever thought they were going to. It's been a brilliant journey, and to be honest, I think like having my kids has helped me stay motivated and stay dedicated to become the best version of a fighter like that I can be, just to make them as proud. But yes, obviously that's the first time going 10 rounds. I've been scheduled to do it a couple of times, and a 12 rounder actually for the IBO belt. So it was good. It was good to bank the rounds and to see what it feels like to do it, just to actually do the rounds. I think I dealt with it fine. I pushed the pace all night. I did. It was my pace, but I tried to keep on the back foot, and I was trying to get him out there without like really getting into too much. I struggled a bit towards the end with a few wee things going on, like with my hands. But I'm feeling good now, and I think we're ready to go soon.
Obviously, how is the hands? Obviously, I know a couple. Obviously, Anto obviously hurt his hands in the fight. What is it with obviously Belfast boxers and hurting their hands? I guess these are two obviously devastating punchers. Obviously, Anto wouldn't be obviously in his record. Obviously, doesn't show the devastating power he has. But what is it with all the Belfast fighters in their hands? You need to sort of start doing the old routine of obviously dipping your hands in petrol. They sort of harden them up. I guess it just sometimes things can obviously happen in the ring. Obviously, trying to throw a punch in a certain way and it's blocked and things like that can sort of lead to damage.
Yeah, listen, in the ring you're hitting elbows and you're hitting like forearms and hips and heads and I can be sore in your hands. It's just, I think it was towards the end of last year I had 3 fights like kind of like within about 2 months. It was like camp back to back and I kind of my fight in December probably came a bit too soon for me. But I didn't want to miss the event. But they're feeling good now. I've had X-rays on them and they're all good. So I think now I'm 35 in 11 days. So
you look like 45.
I've no time to waste. No time to waste. I'm looking forward to fighting again soon. I've already been on the phone and I've met with Jamie already. And we have plans in place and hopefully we can get something across the line soon. But I think it's all leading to a massive fight. There's some big names out there. I've maintained like my ranking. I'm now back down to super middleweight, which was a lot easier to make than I thought it was going to be. So I think it's all gearing up to a big fight and hopefully a crack at a world title.
I guess when you sort of see it there where you're sort of saying you're 11 days away from 35, does it sort of feel bad sort of for you in a way that you're coming to 35? I know you're sort of fresh in terms of miles as a boxer, but you're probably seeing it yourself as well as going, how long further do you have sort of left in the sport? And I know you don't want to sort of think in that way, but you obviously know you've got a shelf life of how long you can go. I guess only you'll know obviously in your performance and everything else, but is it sort of now like a sort of rush for you? You don't want to be too long between fights because you don't know how long you can sort of have left in the sport?
Yeah, I don't think I'm in a rush. Obviously, 35's kind of at super middleweight. It's not like I'm a flyweight or like the smaller you go, then it becomes a bit harder because of, like the speed and stuff. But as I say, I'm only pro 6 years, so and I haven't had loads of grueling fights, so I'm still fairly fresh. I would like to think that I could fight on for like another couple of years anyway. But from the very first day that I fought, which was 6 years ago, it's always been let's take it fight by fight, which I've done and it's worked so far. So I'll continue to do that. Obviously, it's important to have plans further on, but I leave it up to Jamie Conlan and Conlan Boxing. So as I say, I haven't had like mad wars. I haven't took loads of punishment. So there's still life in the old dog yet.
I guess obviously the sort of feeling you sort of have obviously after the fight, obviously the downbeat sort of thing, I guess it's the way everybody's feeling. Obviously everybody had the hopes and dreams of obviously Mick becoming world champion, our first obviously over 4 years since the last male world champion of the recognised 4 bodies. Obviously I know you, Dennis and Anto have obviously won ABO honours since then, but obviously for the big glory nights, I guess the sort of pressure was sort of put on. It's bringing the BT back again, it's bringing Top Rank back again, it's trying to get the zone back again and stuff as well. I guess for Mick it sort of looks like he's going to continue on, and I guess for us obviously, and I know you're a big fan and stuff of the sport as well, I guess it's great news that if someone can see that they still have the potential to become a world champion. I know he had obviously a bad knockout to Lee Wood, and he obviously was badly hurt obviously against Lopez. It looked like he may have got on his feet again, but that was Mick. He probably got up on his feet again and maybe got not put down again, but it was sort of that mentality of I'll keep getting back up, but I guess as a bitter blow, I guess for us 2 weeks in a row, obviously Katie Taylor lost, Mick Conlan lost, but I guess obviously there's as you say, there's always life left in an old dog, and Mick can come again, and hopefully third time around, like Steve Collins. First, they're a great example. I know Mick's got a lot of slack for sort of afterwards, but people forget that Steve Collins, he's probably regarded as one of our very best. He 2 world title fights, lost them both, and then obviously went on and never lost again, sort of in the rest of his pro career. So I guess when you sort of have that mentality and motivation, it can still happen.
Yeah, I think boxing is unfortunately a sport where a defeat, people write you off. I think we need to take a bit of an example from like the MMA where fighters get beat. Like I've seen guys get beat like 2 or 3 times and they come back and have a big win, and then all of a sudden they're a freaking superstar again. So I think Mick has the talent and the ability and the work ethic to come back again. I think there's big fights like in the UK for him. The likes of Wood again and Morrison and fights like that. And I think he's more capable of beating both of them guys. And I think we're kind of in Irish boxing, we're at a strange stage where there maybe isn't anybody who can fill the boots of Katie Taylor or Conlan yet, but we're close to that. The likes of me and Antoine Sean McKenna could probably do something a bit smaller than the SSC, which unfortunately here we don't really have. It's like small hall or CSSC, but it's good to see that Mick is looking to fight on, which is going to benefit us as fighters and a city also. And to see like people like don't see like when there's big fights like at the Odyssey and there's 10,000 people. Not only is it good for boxing, it's good like for the local business as well. Like the town was buzzing and bars and the vibe was great. So I think in terms of like athletes and sports personalities, like we need people like McCollum.
Definitely, and I totally echo that. And I've sort of nearly had arguments sort of with people this week where they're sort of people discrediting Mick and sort of what he's done, and I was like, oh, he's only a journeyman now, like put up your contact details and obviously go a few rounds with him. People's very quick, they sort of look from the outside of sort of boxing, and particularly obviously you would maybe get it sometimes as well, but people are very quick on the outside to go, oh, they're finished, they can't do this, they get knocked out, but they don't realise obviously that obviously how talented people are in the ring. Like if these people are online, they're slating fighters. I'm sure Mick would be happy to obviously take some of these guys some rounds in sparring and show them what there was a really good advert out in Paddy Power the other week. People slating boxers and Thomas Carty and Natasha Jonas and stuff like that. So I think people nearly sometimes have to forget that boxers are human. They obviously can obviously have a defeat, but they can come back from it as well.
I think I find it hard like to criticise fans because boxing's nothing like without fans, but it's difficult when you see, especially like people that you the class as friends as well, like get this sort of grief for attempting to be great or attempting to be the best version of themselves that they are, or because they can. At the end of the day, in the case of Mick, he's getting in and fighting a world champion, one of the one of the best fighters like in the whole division, and he gets beat, and people are so quick like to jump on like sort of like the bandwagon and give him grief for trying to be great. It's very frustrating, but boxing needs fans, and it showed I think like on the night that there's much more good fans than trolls online that like want to slate people. Thankfully it hasn't really affected me. I don't get much grief online. I don't get any really, to be honest. Because I've seen like my performance could have took grief, because people always talk about in my opinion I should be like winning the fights much more comfortably, and people could have like pointed that out, and there wasn't much of that. So I haven't experienced much of it, but it's hard to watch and see friends take grief for trying to be great.
I was going to say there as well, obviously if you had knocked Ramirez out in a couple of rounds, people then said as well that obviously he wasn't a good enough opponent and stuff as well. You're in a sort of no-win sort of thing with boxing, and I guess sometimes you just have to sort of focus on yourself and what you can do, rather than obviously what other people can sort of say in the background about whether this guy's good enough or not.
Yeah, of course. Like if I had him out and took him out in the round, it probably wouldn't have made a difference. But I mean, but it's such a fragile sport to where at the feet, like you go from sort of like hero to zero by getting beat by another guy who's a trained athlete. It's madness, but we put ourselves in that position and we know what it's all about. And I think if you struggle to deal with that, you're probably in the wrong sport also.
Definitely are. I guess obviously we're just over 2 weeks away from obviously the fight that probably you should have had. Obviously Edward Berlanga and obviously Jason Quigley. I guess obviously now your fights out of the way. I guess you'll be sort of looking in obviously potentially obviously to fight the winner and stuff as well. But will you sort of look at that fight and when you see Jason Quigley there, somebody's going to obviously put your face there instead and say this should have been Paddy. But I guess it's one of them. It's Jason Quigley got to say yes before you, but you'll obviously be interested to sort of look at it. And I guess, as you said, you're happy to obviously to fight the winner as well.
Yes, listen, I had my night, which was 2 weeks ago, and I'll be rooting for Jason Quigley on the 24th of June. Obviously, I was offered the fight and we were in discussions, but it's a big business and like these things happen. I'd be very open and like the fight in the winner. I would love it to be Jason because I would love to have a big fight then here, like somewhere in Ireland. But if it's Berlanga, then you have a chance of fighting like an MSG or a massive venue like in the States. So I'll definitely tune in and watch the fight. I'll be hoping that Jason Quigley wins because he's a fellow Irishman, and I've spoken to him a couple of times and he seems like he's a great guy, and he's actually helping to promote and manage fighters here in Ireland as well, which is great. So I'll be rooting for him, but I'm very open to fight the winner.
Definitely, it's an intriguing fight. Obviously, I know Berlanga's obviously been out of the ring for a while as well. I think he's been out of the ring for over a year. So obviously, maybe it might be for Jason. It might be a chance to get him at the right time, and sort of propel himself obviously back to world honours. He's had 2 defeats as well, and sort of isn't even a world title or does even look like a world title eliminator. But there obviously is a potential that it could be a final. It could sort of be classified as like a non-official final eliminator for a world title. I guess the thing for you is sort of with Canelo holding up all the belts in the division, you could obviously potentially fighting for a world title, but obviously because Canelo has them all, you're sort of in that lottery to go. Does Eddie bring him to the UK and you be the next one sort of there as could have him, Rocky Fielding's obviously fought him, Billy Joe's fought him, could you be the one that they could make a phone call out? Because I know Bivell's now out of that running for September, so there could be a potential that they could pick up the phone and say, Paddy, do you fancy a go at Canelo?
Canelo Alvarez, let's go. No, listen, I was reading this morning actually, he seems to want the same terms as the first fight, which I don't think's fair. Obviously, Bivell's beat him. I think he deserves a bigger chunk of the pot after beating him well as well. But he's a superstar of boxing, so he calls the shots. He can fight anywhere and sell it out. Obviously, it's the dream fight for any super middleweight. It's what's he say? He says, "You're looking at payday." Yeah, of course we are. Of course we are.
You want payday?
You want payday? Yeah, I do. I've belief that the Conlan boxing have enough links to get me the biggest fights possible, and we've been in talks. And early talks with so many big fights, and it's just a matter of the right one then coming off. I think if you look back at my career, I've accepted fights with different fighters and they haven't come off, but I'm still here and I'm still unbeaten, and they probably haven't happened for reasons. So in boxing, timing's everything, and everything at the minute has felt right for me. So I'm not fighting on 24th June, which is again probably happened for a reason, and I think there's something bigger down the line.
When you sort of look back on your sort of career as well, obviously, when you look over the last 6 years, when you think, I keep bringing back to it, but you think at the very start when fights weren't coming off, you sort of get used to that now, that sort of, you're happy for no to happen, that fights falling through, opponents and everything else, you come through the sort of ticket selling stage as well, and you're sort of, and I know you'll probably hate me for saying this, but you're sort of like a role model for everybody else that's coming through now. Do you know that you have to be able to sell tickets first and foremost to get yourself recognised, and then you obviously have to have hammers for fists as well to obviously knock people out and get people talking. But you've been used to obviously things happening obviously that don't happen in the sport. Are you sort of sceptical of the fact when, you know, if the phone was to pick up with Canelo today, that, you know, something's not going to happen here, he's going to fall out with 2 weeks to go with an injury or something like that? You always maybe expect the worst to happen rather than the best?
No, I'm very open-minded. I don't really get fazed by much. I think a big experience was when the Frampton bill, Frampton and good areas, like, it fell through, and I took a bat, and I thought it was the end of the world. But now it's like so many fights and names have been mentioned. Now, like I know what to expect. I've boxed here in the Devonish 2 or 3 times.
Some knockouts on here as well.
Yeah. Some good nights at the Devonish. So I know what it's like to fight on the smallest of all shows, and now at the SSC, and I had a fight abroad as well. And I recently applied for my British Boxing Board Manager's Licence, which should be sorted this week. And once that's sorted, I want to try and help pass my experiences on, and hopefully find a diamond in the rough as well.
I know of obviously potential of first signing, and obviously I'm not going to sort of break it out there or anything like that. Obviously you'll obviously make the announcement and everything else when it happens, but I guess for you it's something different coming into the sport, and I know that obviously you got great experience and people there like Mark Dunlop and obviously Jamie Conlan, obviously they're able to pass on the knowledge to you as well. Do you sort of nearly see yourself as the new age, maybe potential Eddie Hearn coming through, that, you know, you could get to the stage where you could promote in shows and stuff as well? I guess if you don't dream of them scenarios, you know, what do you even get involved in the management for, you know? But do you sort of look at it, you know, management's the first sort of level, build up a stable and then potentially obviously put on shows yourself?
Yeah, listen, I'm very open to like whatever comes my way. I've been involved in like the Quigley promotions and the Boxing Ireland promotions and stuff, and I think there's a gap in the market for it now in Belfast. Mark's the only guy that's running shows. Irish boxing, especially Belfast boxing, is blooming at the minute, and I think the small hall scene is big enough for another person. I don't know if it's going to be me, but first off, my main focus is my own career, and as you say, I'm going to have a signing soon, and he's due to fight. So after that, after my next fight as well, I'm going to then start to focus on like the management side as well. So Belfast is a massive boxing city, and I think it's full of talent, and without the opportunity, they don't get seen very often. So it's about trying to give back to the smaller hall boxing as well. I think it's where I came from. It's where I took my opportunities, and I think if people get the same opportunity as me, there's much more.
As I was going to say there, if sort of you can find someone that was similar to yourself, that can sell a few tickets, they can bang, you know, you've already laid the blueprint out for them and where they can go and where they can dream for, and where the contacts you've sort of built in boxing, that obviously can open doors for someone probably maybe that someone else couldn't. And but I guess at the same time you don't want to focus on that too much, because you still need to focus on fighting yourself, and if you get too focused on the managing side of things, it then takes a focus from what you're doing is actually still trying to achieve your dreams.
Yeah, I wouldn't be looking to work with like loads of fighters. I have, for boxing, like in Belfast, I have very good contacts in Conlan boxing who have 4 or 5 dates a year with ESPN, and I'll be torturing Jamie for slots and stuff like for my fighters. And then also you have Mark Dunlop, who is now working closely like with Jamie as well, and he seems to be giving different fighters like the opportunities also. So it's boxing in Belfast has always been like a very close community, and it's good and it benefits like fighters because there's loads of different opportunities. And again, I've experienced it all. I'm hoping to top my own bill very, very soon, and it'll be that'd be going from fighting first, like the Davnish, the top of my own bill in a decent venue. So, as I say, I've experienced needing to sell tickets to like cover my opponent's flights and him and his coaches to hopefully be in the main event.
That's still a little bit dream. I know you said before, it'd be great to obviously headline the SSE. Ando Kukachi obviously said last week that he obviously knows he's within touching distance of it as well. There maybe obviously could be the potential, obviously, nearly like a sort of co-main, sort of, maybe potentially obviously Anto with the BT sort of connection, obviously headlining potentially. I know he's obviously been linked with O'Shaquille Foster and Joe Cordina. There's sort of only real champions really left at the moment, but there's potential maybe that could be in the SSE and you could be co-main to that, which is effectively could be like two main events, pulling together where there's not really one standout could fill it out. To put the twos together and then the likes of Tyrone McKenna and others on it. There's no limit to obviously what the SSE. Obviously the limit is 10,000, but I'm saying if they sort of opened up at half full and then obviously built it up from that, there's no reason why it couldn't fill out.
Yeah, listen, we done Ram Burnett, my first show, which was I think was 4.5 hours or something along those lines. But see, when you're there, it's a massive venue and it's a great venue. And I definitely think with Anto on his links to BT and his IBO world title, there's the opportunity like for me and him. If we were to do that, I think we would do very well. And I'd be very open to that as well. Yeah, of course.
Definitely. Well, listen, Elizabeth, thank you very much for your time. I think we got more than probably expected out of you today, about 26 minutes. But I guess in the sunshine, everyone wants to keep talking. But great to obviously, I know it's 2 weeks after sort of nearly your fight sort of happened, but great to obviously get a catch up from your last fight, and hopefully, fingers crossed, not too long before you're back in the ring again, because I'm sure when that good weather's there, it'd be easy to obviously have a few barbecues, a few drinks. The next thing you know, you're at a heavyweight stance.
Do you know what? I've probably went a wee bit too mad recently, so it's time to batten down the hatches, zip the mouth closed, and get back training. Yeah.
Well, listen, thanks very much for your time. We'll catch up with you soon, buddy.